Good morning, everyone from Madison, Wisconsin. I'm so happy to be with you all this morning. Uh, and I'm very pleased to have you join us. As we're getting settled and starting this practice, please use the chat window to tell us where you're from and give us a word or two about how you might be feeling right now. We have people already joining from Romania, from the Ukraine, from here in Madison. Wonderful to have all of you. I'm Richie Davidson. I'm the founder and director of the Center for Healthy Minds. And we are at Healthy Minds really honored and pleased to be in a position to offer these meditation practices to you all in our community without cost. Thank you to the generosity of our donors for making this possible. Before we begin, I'd like to just say a little bit about who we are. We are both a university center, the Center for Healthy Minds, and a nonprofit corporation, Healthy Minds Innovations. We are located here in Madison, Wisconsin, on the University of Wisconsin campus. And our broad mission is to cultivate well-being and relieve suffering through a scientific understanding of the mind. And our nonprofit is founded to take the insights that we can glean from our research and turn them into tools that can be used to both measure and cultivate well-being. It's great to see so many of you from all over the place, from the Czech Republic, from Cincinnati, from Chicago, many friends from Wisconsin, and the range of emotions goes from feeling terrific to rushed and settling to Brooklyn, New York, I assume, my hometown, where I was born. So it's great to have all of you. Before we begin, I just want to say a little bit about the work that we do. We are working on a framework for well-being that emphasizes what we might call the plasticity of well-being, the fact that it actually can be cultivated, it can be learned. We talk about well-being as a skill. There are three pillars of well-being in this framework. The first is awareness, which we'll be focusing on today and throughout this week in our meditation practices. And I'll say more about that in a moment. The second is connection, which involves the qualities that nurture successful social relationships and interpersonal interactions. The third element or pillar of well-being is insight. And insight is about self-knowledge, developing a curiosity about how the narrative about ourself actually works and developing a healthy relationship to this narrative. And finally, the fourth pillar of well-being is purpose, identifying one's true north and aligning our everyday behavior with this sense of purpose. This week, we're focusing on awareness. Awareness is so fundamental to human existence. It is the quality of knowing. And neuroscientists have learned a great deal about the brain mechanisms underlying awareness. And there are two elements of awareness that are particularly important. One is the capacity to voluntarily control our attention. And the second is a quality that scientists call meta-awareness, which is the capacity to know what our mind is actually doing. And I think we've all had the experience of, at times, not knowing what our mind is doing. For example, how many of you have had the experience of reading a book where you're reading each word on a page, and you may read one page, you may read a second page, and after a few minutes, you realize that you have absolutely no idea what you've just read. Your mind is somewhere else. That is an example of not knowing what our mind is doing. But the moment we recognize that, the moment we wake up to our present moment experience, is meta-awareness. And these are the elements that we'll be working with in our practice today. So let's begin now and find a comfortable posture wherever you may be sitting, whether it is in a chair or on a cushion. And we like to sit with our spines upright, not too tight, but not too loose, to have a dignified but relaxed presence. And it may be best to close our eyes for this practice, although if you're more comfortable keeping them open, that's fine too. We have spent, I think, all of us so much screen time during this pandemic. It's good occasionally to close our eyes. And let's bring awareness now into the present moment and into our bodies. Our bodies can be used as a support for our awareness because we are all embodied creatures. Each of us has a body. And we can sense our body. We can feel our body. We can know our body. So let's bring awareness into our bodies and sweep through our bodies, beginning with our head, our face, our jaw, our neck, our shoulders and arms, our torso, feeling our sit bones, our legs, our knees, our shins, our ankles, our feet, our toes, infusing our whole bodies with awareness. And as we begin to settle into this period of practice, let's see if we can find our motivation and what some psychologists have called a self-transcendent motivation. That is a motivation that goes beyond ourselves for why we practice. And let's see if we can recognize how calming our mind and opening our heart is beneficial not only for ourselves, but for all the others that we connect with, directly or indirectly. So let's spend a few moments and see if we can form this altruistic motivation for our practice. Awareness is a quality that we can deploy to know anything. And it is so important and underlies so much of our well-being. We place it as the first pillar of well-being. And as we are bringing our awareness into the present moment, let's bring awareness to not only our bodies, but also to our thoughts and our emotions. And let's see if we can find a sense of appreciation, particularly at this very uncertain time around the world. Appreciation for those who may be helpful to us on a daily basis. It might be our spouse, it might be another family member, it might be a person who comes in and helps us in some way. It might be a person in the grocery store who helps feed us. It might be a healthcare provider. So let's bring our awareness to those individuals who have been helpful and important to us in this period of uncertainty and helped in a very practical way. And savoring this sense of appreciation with the power of our awareness. There are likely many moments of appreciation that naturally arise throughout the day, but we may not notice them. We may not recognize them, because our awareness is elsewhere. The power of our awareness is to know what we may be feeling or thinking. What other emotions or thoughts may be arising to which we can bring awareness? And the invitation here is not to change any thoughts or emotions, even if they may be unpleasant, but to simply notice them. And there's a certain healing quality to awareness itself. Becoming friends with whatever our experience might be, and shifting from a mode of doing to one of simply being. So let's spend a few moments resting with this quality of open awareness, noticing whatever may be arising. It might be bodily sensations. They may be pleasant They may be unpleasant. There may be tension. There might be thoughts, feelings, memories, images, whatever it might be. And simply maintaining a stance of friendly curiosity about our experience. And if at any point we notice that our mind has wandered, that we're lost, we can simply bring our mind back to the present moment, whatever that moment might be. Simply resting with this quality of being aware and awake. One of the opportunities that we have in this pandemic situation with our stay-at-home orders in many parts of the world still is that the external noise, all of the busyness in our external environment is, at least for some of us, diminished. And maybe this allows for a more open, spacious awareness. One of the qualities I mentioned earlier is meta-awareness. The capacity to know what our mind is doing. This is a particularly important capacity, especially in this challenging time. And as we reflect on how we might take the insights that we glean from these periods of formal practice and infuse them into our everyday lives, meta-awareness is especially important. And part of meta-awareness is simply remembering to be aware, remembering to notice. As an antidote to being on automatic. So as we are sitting and resting in open awareness, let us become aware of this quality of awareness itself. This precious capacity for knowing that we as human beings possess in a way that is far different than any other species that we know of on this planet. And as we come toward the end of this period of practice, one of the important components of a meditation session is always at the end to dedicate whatever merit, whatever benefit, whatever insight we might have gleaned to dedicate it to the welfare of others. So let's spend a few moments reflecting on how this quality of warm, open-hearted, awake presence may be of benefit, not only to ourselves, but to all of those around us. And even simple acts, one of the things that our public health officials remind us is to not touch our face, something we all do very automatically. Automatically in this sense means without meta-awareness. Can we notice the next time we have a movement toward touching our face and actually recognize this and then choose not to touch our face, which will benefit ourselves and also benefit others by not spreading the virus. Simple ways in which meta-awareness can have practical import. So for those of you whose eyes have been closed, please open them. And maybe share in the chat box how you might be feeling right now. Give us a word or two. And what we practiced is a little taste of awareness practices. We have introduced an app called the Healthy Minds Program, which contains practices and little mini podcasts about the science in each of the 4 pillars of well-being: for awareness, connection, insight, and purpose. And we'll put in the chat box a link where you can learn more about our app. It is freely available due to the generosity of our donors. So please feel free to download it. We encourage you to try it. We also wish to remind you that we are offering free meditation, guided meditations, Monday through Friday every week in May, and probably longer. The Monday meditations by Daniela Labro of Mexico City are in Spanish. So for our Spanish-speaking friends around the world, please check that out. We really appreciate all of you joining in. And I see some of the words that people are describing of their experience: light, curious, purposeful, grateful, appreciation, gratitude, love. It's great to feel connected to this community. One of the things that I often say during this time is that we're really being asked to physically distance, not socially distance. We can remain socially connected while we're physically distancing. So I wish you all well. May you all be safe, and may you all be healthy, and have a good rest of your day or evening, wherever you might be. And thank you so much for joining us today.